recently, the chief exorcist at the Vatican reported that the devil was in the Vatican.
Morgan.
Wolf, Reverend Gabriele Amorth made headlines around the world recently when he said the devil was present in the Vatican. You're talking about something very real, aren't you?
Certo, realissima. Dico, se credete al Vangelo, credete all'esistenza del demonio.
Absolutely, very real.
As to the devil's presence in the Vatican, he says that's no surprise. He once had to perform an exorcism on another exorcist.
As we move to room U, here we find the shock of all shocks. Here on the wall, it says there is a depiction of Lucifer. That is the light bearer, the morning star. On the opposite of the wall, there is a drawing of Vesper, the evening star, cosmic symbol of the human life cycle. We find out that when we get to room U, here we have a clear depiction of Lucifer underneath the Vatican at St. Peter's Basilica. We ask ourselves, why are they keeping this image of Lucifer underneath the Vatican? Again, you would think if you're a Christian church, you would not want to have any of these images. Now we know that they'll go on and say, oh, well, we're saving it because it's a UNESCO heritage site or something like that. This is always their excuse, saving it for the sake of art. And since Rome claims itself to be the one true church, you would think they would lead by example. But what kind of example is this? That you have a depiction of Lucifer underneath the Vatican for countless hundreds and hundreds of years? Now this image here underneath the Vatican has been there since their claim, which would be Constantine. We would know that he was the first one that built this basilica. And so again we ask ourselves, why are they keeping this depiction of Lucifer underneath the Vatican? Well, we think the answer for why all these images, idols, are kept underneath the Vatican is because what we're dealing with here is we're dealing with an apostate church that has always been apostate, and even now as it is filled with Freemasons. And so we know that the reason why they're keeping all of this there now, and they're actually revealing this on their internet website, is because they want people to see this. They want people to see what they're really all about. For the masses who believe that Rome is still a pure church, they don't mind deceiving them into believing that they are still a Christian church. As you go down underneath the Vatican, down into the next rooms, they will try to convince you on this tour that you take that Peter is buried down there in one of the rooms and that this gives credence to following the Pope. But we ask the question, why would you want to follow a Pope who has all these evil things underneath his church? It's very clear by this depiction of Lucifer that the devil is in the Vatican. He's hidden way down underneath the Vatican at St. Peter's Basilica.
Joining the VAT and the radio telescope in 2004 was the LBT, or Large Binocular Telescope. As its name implies, it's a kind of double telescope. 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 It has a collecting area of 111 square meters, larger than any other reflector telescope. It can observe phenomena that are so far away in time and space that they give a glimpse of the creation of the galaxies. The images from the Vatican telescope and the LBT both are of exceptional brilliance and a fascinating beauty, much of which is lost through television transmission. Stars and galaxies. Confronted with a spectacle like this, layman and specialist alike naturally wonder how it all began. A German consortium has developed a near-infrared camera and spectrograph for the LBT and dubbed it Lucifer, 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 Lucifer. It diffracts light into its different wavelengths, the colors of the spectrum. It's used to analyze the composition of objects in space, even in other galaxies. Such high-tech astronomy often makes it easy to lose sight of the forest for all the trees.
to us from the Vatican on what was, of course, an extraordinary day. Within hours of Pope Benedict announcing that he was to resign, take a look at this. Lightning struck St. Peter's Basilica. You can see it again now in slow motion. Extraordinary. It happened just before 6 o'clock in the evening, local time.
Here is part of the Jesuit oath. I do further promise and declare, that I will have no opinion or will of my own, or any mental reservation whatever, even as a corpse or cadaver, but will unhesitatingly obey each and every command that I may receive from my superiors in the militia of the Pope. I furthermore promise and declare that I will, when opportunity presents, make and wage relentless war, secretly or openly, against all heretics, Protestants and liberals, as I am directed to do, to extirpate and exterminate them from the face of the whole earth, and that I will spare neither age, sex or condition, and that I will hang, burn, waste, boil, flay, strangle and bury alive these infamous heretics, rip up the stomachs and the wombs of their women and crush their infants' heads against the walls, in order to annihilate forever their execrable race.
Toledo detectives are at the scene of what appears to be the ritualistic murder of Sister Margaret Ann Paul. Found in the sacristy of Mercy Hospital, the nun has been stabbed 31 times. Investigators see no reasonable motive. The nun's ungodly murder slips into the cold case files. But in June of 2003, the old cold case is revived when the Attorney General's office receives a letter from a woman with startling allegations against members of the Toledo, Ohio clergy.
The letter contained a lot of examples of sadomasochistic sex, priests paying to have sex with young girls in the parish, ritualistic things, girls being on the altar, being offered up, animals being sacrificed. The letter even had examples of children being killed.
There had been people in robes that surrounded her at a very young age in a basement with candles, being penetrated by snakes and having insects put on her body.
The woman alleges abuse from multiple members of the clergy over the course of 7 years, beginning in 1968. One of the priests she claims sexually assaulted her is Gerald Robinson. Sentenced to 15 years to life, he maintains his innocence to this day.
The incredible profits generated by war, reaped from both the winners and losers, led to a syndrome where induced wars became a way of life for the overlords because of the vast financial profits and additional benefits derived from it. In addition to massive financial profits, war results in many other benefits for the overlords. Some of the most important to them are increased centralized control of the population by government, increased militarization, and the public fear of conflicts to come, leading them to let their peace-loving statesmen do all their thinking for them. But the Jesuits have a much darker rationale behind all the world conflicts they have overseen in the last 600 years. They have used all of these various wars as cover UPS for their mass exterminations of Protestants and all other non-Catholic peoples worldwide. This is the real horror of the Jesuits and the Vatican. They are the most prolific mass murders in all of human history. No one and nothing else in known human history compares to their record of calculated genocide. Now you know why we must stop this evil. The Vatican, as it is now, is the incarnation of hell itself. There can be no doubt of that. Here are some Jesuit/Vatican atrocities to mull over. The Crusades, who knows how many died? And then the Children's Crusades. Good God! The Inquisitions, In Vatican Assassins, Eric John Phelps cites a source that estimates roughly 60 million people were murdered in the various stages of the Inquisitions. Think about that number for a minute. Most of these people were tortured to death. Catherine de' Medici instigated the butchering of 75,000 French Protestant Huguenots on August 24, 1572. In 1598 Henry IV issued the Edict of Nantes to protect them. By manipulating the rescinding of the Protective Edict of Nantes in 1685 by the Jesuit confessor to King Louis XIV, using religious blackmail, another 500,000 French Huguenots were butchered by the vile French Catholic dragonnades. In 1655 again, British Protestant hero Oliver Cromwell threatened to invade France and crush the French crown for a new massacre being waged upon the French Vaudois Protestants of Valley of Piedmont by 6 Catholic regiments by the Duke of Savoy. The massacre of the poor Irish Protestants on October 23, 1641, the feast of Ignatius Loyola. How fitting a day for a massacre by these bloodthirsty swine. It is estimated that 150,000 Irish Protestants were butchered in the streets and in their homes. This slaughter took place over an 8-year period. Finally, once again it was Oliver Cromwell who finally invaded Ireland and attacked the Jesuit base at Drogheda and in a rage exterminated the entire Catholic village of 2,000. Only this invasion finally ended the massacre of the Protestants. The present-day Irish Protestants are still at war with the fanatical Irish Catholic Jesuits, and this is why they need the continued protection of the British Army.
I am not a number. I am a free man.